Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. Today is March 20th. It is 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'd like to invite you to stand and join us in an invocation tonight led by John Ney, Christ the King Community Church. Immediately following that, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, thank you. Join me in prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful day, and we thank you for this incredible place we get to call home. And God, we pray for your presence here tonight, and we pray for your presence in our community. And God, we thank you for everyone who serves this community, and we ask a special blessing and protection over all of our public servants, our firefighters, our police officers, our teachers, and all those who serve this city. God, would you just look after them and protect them? And God, we especially pray for the protection over our schools and our children. And God, would you pour out your blessing and protection over our military members and their families as they sacrifice so much to serve our country. And God, I pray for all the people of Oak Harbor and ask that you would protect and bless this community. God, help us to care for one another, love one another as friends and as neighbors. And God, we seek your guidance and your direction. We ask for your wisdom and your strength for our mayor and our city council members. And God, we ask for your protection and blessing over them as they lead and guide this community. And God, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it looks like we are missing one council person this evening, and I would entertain a motion to excuse. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Councilor Servadius to approve the absence of Councilor Tara Heisen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And tonight I have been advised that staff is asking to pull item number 8A, which is labor agreement, Oak Harbor Police Association commissioned unit, from the agenda due to the unavailability of one staff member. So having said that, we will move forward. Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Sorry, Mayor, I would just move to approve the agenda with the exception of the removal of item 8A.
Second.
Okay, motion second to approve the agenda with the exception of item number 8A. Motion by Councilor Servadius, second by Councilor Olmberg. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Unanimous. We are moving to item number 2C. We have a community presentation tonight, and I think I see our Fire Chief Merrill approaching the podium for the 2017 Fire Department Annual Report. Take it away, Chief.
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I was asked to be brief, so we had a really good year. Thanks.
Best report ever.
Okay, so you know I'm not that short-winded. But first of all, of course, I've got to thank Angela Bronstein. We provided the information, and Angela's brain, experience, dedication to work put this presentation together. So all I am is the mouthpiece for the work that she did, so thank you very much, Angela. Great job when you see this, as usual.
In advance.
Actually, I asked her if she wanted to do this, and she said not really. She'd prefer not. So we want to talk about our fire department, and as you know, I'm rather proud of our guys and girls that work at the department, and you know I could probably talk for 3 or 4 hours without any difficulty, but I'll do my darndest to keep it short. But to give you an idea, of course, a little bit of review. We've got about 23,000 people in the city. We service 9.7 square miles within the city limits. Our property's been valued at $1.85 billion is what we protect. And as you know, we protect that out of one fire station. When we look at the housing units, and I was kind of surprised about this number, but when you consider all the single-family, duplex, condos, townhouses, and apartments, 9,900 housing units within the city. So we've got a pretty good area that we take care of. We were re-rated again by Washington Survey and Rating Bureau for 2017. 10 being the worst, 1 being the best. We came in at a number 4 again. with about 83 other agencies within the state of Washington. So when you consider the size that we take care of, the staffing that we have, a Class 4 is a good insurance rating for us. Our goal has always been to get to a 3, and we're going to continue to work towards that, but we've got some work ahead of us. When we consider our personnel, we like to maintain high ethical standards. We think we do that. Our folks are very sincere, they're honest, they're open, and we like to earn the trust of others. We like to get out into the community and be part of the community. I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit. To go along with that, under NFPA 1710, which is the professional standard qualifications for a professional fire department, it requires 13 firefighters are supposed to be on the scene of a fire prior to beginning any firefighting efforts. Now, there are some exceptions to that. If there's a known life hazard, this rule's out the door. We do with what we can. And when you consider what that takes, is 2 engine companies, a ladder truck with a minimum of 4 firefighters, a command officer, that gets us our 13 to start with. When you look at our staffing, we have 41 members, 2 chief officers, Chief Buxton and myself. We have 4 career captains and a career lieutenant. We have 4 career firefighters, and Angela put her in there on the right side. So we have 26 paid-on-call firefighters currently, and there's 3 the guys that are in the recruit academy right now. So when we look at the coverage,
Was that staged?
Where are the 13?
yeah, that's a good question, Mr. Almberg. That's a really good question. So hold on just a second. Okay. So when we look at the continuous coverage that we provide to the city, during the daytime from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., our staffing is there's 3 firefighters, 2 of them are career, 1's a paid-on-call, and 1 captain. We have 2 chief officers, Chief Buxton and myself, and Captain Anderson, and we both, or all 3 of us, work on command duty during the daytime, 1 engine company. At nighttime, our captain becomes the command officer, and we hire back 4 paid-on-call to staff that 1 engine company. So for the entire city of Oak Harbor, we have 1 engine company 24/7. We're very fortunate that we have really good mutual aid agreements with North Whidbey Fire and Rescue, and we've got a good auto aid agreement with North Whidbey as well as the Navy, which supplies us a lot of backup service. So it's really good to have those mutual aid agreements. When we take a look at our paid-on-call and our career staff, our paid-on-call make an average of about $12.05 an hour. They work about 58 hours per month on the average. They can schedule their own D shifts as they choose. It's a very flexible and fluid schedule. They have very limited benefits. There are some for the paid-on-call. And then they are not represented by any union. Our career staff earns about $35 an hour. They work 206 hours per month, a very fixed schedule. As you know, our career guys work 4 12-hour shifts, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., and our captains work 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 96 off, with a Kelly day thrown in there every 8th schedule day, or every 8th schedule. We also have full benefits for our career staff, and they are covered by the union. So on a side-by-side comparison, this is kind of what it looks like between career and paid-on-call. Both groups work so well together, you would never believe that there's paid-on-call and career staff. A lot of other fire departments have issues between their staffing. Our folks work very well together, as I've told you many times in the past, and I'll continue telling you that as we move forward. So years of service. When we take a look at our paid-on-call and our career staff, 14 of our paid-on-call have less than 5 years. So almost half of our department has less than 5 years of service in the paid-on-call ranks. When we look at the career and the paid-on-call, 5 to 9 years, 4 in the career side, 7 in the paid-on-call, 10 to 14 years, 1 in the career, 5 in the paid-on-call. We've got 1 paid-on-call between 15 and 19 years, 6 career staff, 5 on the paid-on-call. This is kind of scary to me. 55% of our department is 20 years or better. That means some of those old-timers, not me included, of course, could retire soon. But that's concerning to me when we look at our demographics, that we've got that high of a group that's got 50, that's 20 years or greater. And of course, you got to have some pictures. This is all of our happy faces. And you can't tell the difference between our paid on call and our career staff. Same requirements, same drill requirements, same attendance requirements. And the last three here on the bottom are the 3 new recruits going through the Recruit Academy right now. So when we look at our suppression force, we like to consider ourselves, we deliver services with courtesy and sensitivity. We treat others with dignity and respect, and we're concerned about the individual's welfare. When we go on calls, it would not be uncommon for us to pack up their groceries, take them home for them, take their car home if they have to go to the hospital. We've taken their animals to the vets if needed. We've brought their bicycles to the station to make sure they're taken care of. Our idea is to make sure that we take care of the individual and their family during an emergency incident. We think that's what we need to do. When you take a look at what we did in 2017, during the year, we had 120 concurrent incidents, so about 9% of the time. And if you remember back the year before, we had about 11% of concurrent calls. 665 medical calls, about 47% of our calls are medical, which when you compare to most fire departments are running between 80 and 82% on medical calls. 86 fires, 251 service calls, 204 false alarms, 83 good intent calls, 56 hazardous conditions, and you can see severe weather, explosions, and other types of calls. We had a 16% increase in call volume in 17 over 16. So when you think about an anatomy of a 911 call, what happens? We've gone away from pretty much landlines, so we're utilizing cellular service. So somebody calls 911 on their cell phone, goes to our dispatch center. They've got 60 seconds to get that call in, processed, and dispatched. We have our turnout time, the amount of time it takes us to get from what we're doing ready to respond, and then we have our travel time. When we look at that, turnout time and travel time ends up being our total response time. We average 4 minutes and 21 seconds for our calls within the city. Now, this number is a little misleading because it doesn't include all the stuff that we do out in the county. If we go to Freeland, if we go to Central Whidbey, if we go to the Navy base, that's not included in this average. It's just within the city limits, 4 minutes and 21 seconds. I think that's a pretty good time. NFPA 1710 says that we should have a standard response time of 4 minutes. The council has established 5 minutes for fire and 4 minutes for EMS calls. When you look at what NFPA 1710 says, that our EMS turnout time should be 1 minute or less. We currently have 1 minute and 13 seconds, and we only meet the standard 42% of the time. EMS calls is 3 minutes and 40 seconds overall. As far as our fire turnout time, the standard says 1 minute and 20 seconds. We do it in 1 minute and 16 seconds, and we meet the standard 81% of the time. And our average fire call is 4 minutes and 8 seconds. You've seen this demographic before, the breakup of the Northeast, Northwest. I've got a better slide for you right here. When you look at the call volume, we know that Southwest quadrant, highest call volume, longest response time, and this year the greatest EMS calls all went into the Southwest quadrant. So every place where it's red that's the highest call volume, the highest number. And if we break down the city, everything in blue is the city limits. If you consider Whidbey Avenue as the north-south, and you take a look at Oak Harbor Road being the east-west, we know that Southwest quadrant. We know we're still expecting growth in that quadrant. We know it's going to be mostly residential. We know that's the longest response time. We know that 1 in 4 homes is outside the 4-minute, 1.5-mile response area. And we know that at some point, at some time, we're going to add a station over in that area to help reduce those numbers. When we take a look at prevention, we work together to solve the problem, to find out what caused the fire. When we look at code enforcement, we did 952 life safety inspections this year. We found 329 violations. With those violations, this is pretty consistent year to year. An extinguisher that's not been serviced, exit lights that don't work, exit illumination that doesn't work, misuse of extension cords, and the unapproved multi-plug adapters. Pretty common year to year. And we did 17 new occupancy inspections. The goal is we want to reduce the potential for fire. We did investigate 34 fires last year. I talked with Captain Hancock here today earlier, and we went back 50 years. This last year in 17, we had a double fatality. And that's the first time we can think of in the last 50 years that we've had a double fatality in the city. It's been years since we've had a single, but to have a double, that was pretty traumatic. But our intent is we want to get in, we want to investigate the fire, find out what the origin of the fire is and the cause of the fire. In the case of this fire where the double fatality was, it was a space heater that was too close to combustible materials. And that's the space heater that was the cause of the fire. We do have 5, as you know, certified fire investigators, which is a high number considered in the size of the city and the service we provide. And we're glad to have 5 fire investigators. We'll go to San Juan County, Skagit, Whatcom, and Island to help out other jurisdictions with fire investigation. We had a total fire loss of $160,000, which is a bad number in itself, but when you look at what we saved $2.9 million worth of property. So that's a pretty good return on the amount of loss that we had. We like public education. We like to get involved with the community. We have fire safety classes. We get involved, as you know, in community events. Fire is everyone's fight, according to the U.S. Fire Administration. We get involved with daycare centers. We get involved with school groups. We see over 4,000 kids a year come into the station, or we go visit schools, putting out our message about fire safety. We do a lot of demonstrations. This is one at the safety fair for Home Depot. We took grease, put it in the pan, and showed how long or how quickly it took that grease to ignite. And people were surprised that you could get it to ignite in 3 minutes or less. And of course, we get involved with the safety fair at Home Depot. We do get involved with community parades. We get involved with station tours. We like having people come and see what their money does in the community. And then, of course, we have station tours. The upper left picture, this was Little Heroes Day. The superheroes came to visit us. And there was all these little kids running around in Batman and Spider-Man and all kinds of stuff. It was really cute to see. And one thing we're really proud of is our Shop with a Hero. Originally, this started out as Shop with a Firefighter program. It's been increased to Shop with a Hero. In this picture, there's us, there's Oak Harbor Police Department, there's North Whidbey Fire and Rescue, NCIS, Navy Fire, and what we do is we go to Walmart and the association pools money together, and we take kids shopping during Christmas season. And then we get $50 between the two. If it goes over 50, it comes out of our pocket. And it's just something we enjoy doing. Now, all I can say is I'm not in that picture anywhere almost, but there is one good-looking Santa Claus up there. I'm going to tell you that right now. And we do CPR and first aid classes. And of course, we're active on social media. We want to provide good quality service to the citizens. And the way to do that is to train. As we've talked about before, we get involved in training. We do a lot of hours into training. There's a lot of commitment and dedication. There's a lot of sweating that goes on. We try new things, and we find out what works well for us. We had 10 new certifications this year, and we had 10 recertifications. And this could be Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, International Fire Service Accreditation Congress, multiple agencies, multiple certifications. As you can see by training, we had 875 training hours, 325 classes, for a total of 4,352 total hours of training that our folks put in for. And you can see by fire, medical, fire officer training, technical rescue, public education, and the list goes on. We did host a live fire training exercise. It was a joint fire one with Island County and with NAS Whidbey Island. It's probably a bad thing to give firefighters a house to burn down and then give them the tools to do it with, because this is what it looks like when we get close to the end. This was a really good day of training. It was surprising the number of fires that we got out of this house, and we could have burned it longer, but we just got involved with the fire. It's good camaraderie with the other departments, working together with them. Where did my picture go? Okay, we're good. And we did different types of training. We did bailouts, we did ventilation, we did going in and look at fire behavior, how the fire started, how it built, procedures within the fire, and of course working together with different organizations. And this is what it looked like when we let it go. And then the cleanup afterwards, and just to see what kind of fire that we get to. And you can see Councilmember Wazinger was there, and I think she had a good time that day from what I could tell. She was hot, she was tired, she was sweaty, and she was smiling from ear to ear. So I trust you had a good time.
I did. You notice my hair is shorter. Didn't burn all that hair off. It was close.
We like to consider ourselves to be fiscally responsible. I'm not going to get into our numbers tonight, but I will tell you about some revenue that we generated over the year with our fire service control contract with Whidbey Health. We brought in $39,000. We had permit fees of $4,900. We got some grant money for a trauma grant for $1,200. And our permits were down this year compared to last year, down 46% from 2016, and we still brought in $46,000 into the general fund. We have to look at our infrastructure as far as our fleet and our equipment. To give you an idea of what it costs to outfit a firefighter, if they came in brand new and we had no gear to put on them, it's going to cost $5,241 by the time we fully outfit somebody if we had to buy all brand new gear. You know, it's surprising how much a bunker coat has gone up to almost $1,100. A pair of gloves is $82. A pair of boots is almost $300. I can remember, now this is scary, I can remember that you could buy a whole set of bunker gear for about $250. And that was back in the days when I used to have hair too, but you know. But it just shows how the price has gone up in order to get our people outfitted. When we look at our rolling stock, we've got 2 engines that are 10 years old. Those are our frontline engines. We've got 2 backline engines that are 19 years old. We've got an aerial ladder truck that is 25 years old. And when the guy from Seagraves came out and looked here last year, he was amazed at how good our ladder truck looked for 25 years. He was absolutely impressed with the entire vehicle. So we take care of our stuff. We do have 2 command vehicles that are 13 years old and a rescue that's 3 years old. And that's what our rolling stock looks like. Our guys do a phenomenal job keeping them maintained and clean and operational, and just to make sure that they are well taken care of, and that we want to make sure that they're going to work when we need them to work. So they're very proud of the job they do with those vehicles. When you take a look at equipment, we test almost 10,000 feet of hose every year. We test 384 feet of ground ladders every year. We do pump testing on 4 engines every year. We make sure all of our SCBs are flow tested every year, and we inspect and clean all of our bunker gear twice a year, 45 sets, to make sure that it's operational and it's safe for our guys to use. We also test hydrants. We tested 901 hydrants last year. We'd make sure the pressure works, the branch valves are working, that they're lubricated, that they're going to work when we need them to operate. We've got a good agreement with the water department. We find something wrong, they get out and they fix it right away for us. So a final thought for you. The fire department is not a business. It's a critical infrastructure. It is community driven, and if it fails, no competitor will fill the void. When it comes to disaster response, the fire department is the community's first and only option. And you can find the entire annual report that I've given you guys a copy of at our website. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Yes, Councilor Wassinger.
I know I made a joke, but I do want to thank you for letting me be a part of your job. And I know Josh Fixie was here, but he was my guide that day. He was my person, and I'm thankful for that. He's 6'8". He was really, really easy to find when you all look alike. And I do want to say, too, that I was excited to go into that fire. It was exhilarating, but towards the end it was quite terrifying as well. I guess maybe as a civilian put in that situation, you don't realize how hot it really gets. And you talk about the gear and how expensive it is, and honestly, it doesn't shock me that much. That gear was heavy. It was hard to maneuver in and carry. I feel like I'm a pretty fit person in life. I take pretty good care of myself fitness-wise, but it was a challenge for me to maneuver and all of that, especially in a burning house. So I appreciate what you do in keeping our city safe, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to experience that in my lifetime. I don't think that I will ever do it again, but I would encourage anyone, if you get the chance, to definitely take advantage. My husband was excited that he didn't have to execute a life insurance policy. He asked me if I had a life insurance policy before I did that. So just thank you again, and I appreciate what you did. I did have one question, though. You mentioned 17 new occupancy. Are those inspections that you do before, is that for new construction? Is it homes, businesses, both? What are those for?
Okay, I'll break your question down for you.
Okay.
No homes.
Okay.
As far as a single family, if it's a multifamily, an apartment or a condo, yes, we'd inspect that. Mostly it's businesses, and it could be a new occupancy where just one tenant moved out and a new tenant moved in,
Okay.
or it's because they had a new fire alarm system, a sprinkling system installed. That would be a new occupancy inspection for us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, input? Yes, Councilor Olmberg.
Thank you, Mayor. About 2015, 2016, Chief Merrill, we were doing a search for a property for a station, potential station over on the southwest quadrant. What is the status of that site selection analysis?
The site is still available. I was going to bring you a presentation at one point, and Dr. Merriman at one point said, hold off for a little bit, and so I'm holding off until we get clearance to move forward.
So you say the site is available, so we have selected a site?
We know of the site that we'd like to purchase, yes.
Okay. And then also about, I think it's 2015, the council authorized $65,000 for a potential new station to start the preliminary design.
Mm-hmm.
My recollection correct on that 65 grand?
I believe it was 61,500, I
Okay.
believe, right in that neighborhood, and we spent all but $7,900 of that.
Okay, so then basically we have a station designed without applying that design to a site?
We have a station design, we have preliminary cost estimates, we have preliminary engineering design, a preliminary station design, yes.
And so then we still have to do civil when we get into the rest of it.
Correct.
Do you have any idea what the shelf life of that design would be for both for meeting the needs of fire and for building code?
The way the station is designed right now, it could be almost indefinitely because it is the basic design of the facility. Things that could change is if there was new laws or new codes that came out as far as seismic retrofitting or seismic design. Otherwise, it's a layout and a preliminary idea of the size of the station, the number of bays, and the use of the facility.
So then this particular design, does it fit or really comply with your first choice selection of a site?
Yes.
The one that you're thinking about?
Yes.
So it's kind of designed with that site in mind?
It's designed for that site, although the design of the facility could be used on multiple sites.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Larson.
So Chief, thanks for emceeing what was a great presentation that was provided for you by someone else. I think that was a great presentation, but you did a great job
Well, thank
presenting it. Performance measures. So the fact that we reached a 4 rating on a 1 to 10 scale is great. But looking forward, is it just the response time, or are there other solid things that we need to accomplish in order to bump that up to a 3?
Oh, how much time have you got? There's lots that goes into the Survey and Rating Bureau. It's not just fire. Part of that is fire control. Part of that is staffing. We are considered very low staffing when you consider what Survey and Rating Bureau requests or requires. When you look at what NFPA 1710 says, that we should have 13 people on the first alarm assignment to get to a call, and we only have 4. That's a staffing issue. We also have to look at the water service. We have been fortunate that we've had a very good water system in the city, and when we were rated by Survey and Rating Bureau, now, I want to explain this best for you. The lower the mark, the better the score. 10 is terrible, 1 is good. So if we had 25 deficiency points, that's good. Our water department, out of 450 potential points, only had 50 deficiency points. So that's very good. The communication station at ICOM plays a big role in it. Out of 475 potential deficiency points, they had 62 or 63 deficiency points. So that's good. Where we got hit hard is our staffing, day and night. We get a 3-to-1 staffing ratio for our paid on call, so we do get credit for them. But the biggest thing that hurt us is some training requirements. And if you read Survey and Rating Bureau, we have to have 20 hours of training every month for every person. That's impossible to get in a department like ours, 20 hours a month. And then you get 50% credit for being a firefighter 1. So it drops it down a little bit. But it's still, in order to get that kind of training, and that's strictly on fire, and there is mandates that we have to have hazardous materials, we have to have EMS, we have to have, I can go on with a whole long list of mandates by the state of training requirements. So if we get 2.5 hours in a month on fire training, we're doing good. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of variables in that. So that's why I said when we got a 4, we've done very well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, Councilor Wiesner.
Chief Merrill, you had in the slide that you had 120 overlapping calls last year. Was there any study done on what kind of delay in response time? I imagine you were backed up by North Woodby Fire and Rescue or with staff in order to cover those, but was there any study done as to how those overlapping calls were timed out in response time because they were overlapping?
That all falls into that 4 minutes and 25-second response time, average response time. So we're fortunate because when we do get multiple calls, we're going to call in the paid-on call to backfill right away. It's nice because NES with the seaplane base, they'll automatically come in. They carry a pager of ours, and as soon as we ask for help, they're on their way from seaplane base. Same way with our auto aid area with North Woodby Fire and Rescue. So they'll automatically start backfilling.
And are you aware of any, bad outcomes due to any sort of delay in response in those overlap calls?
I don't know that the outcomes would have been any different had we been first on or second on compared to how the outcome turned out compared to the incident that we responded to. So I don't know that there was anything that would be any different. Like a CPR call, did somebody expire because we didn't get there fast enough? No.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? One question I had, you mentioned your permits are down from comparison. Could you explain that?
I wish I could.
Okay.
But there's a lot that plays into that. If there was a lot of people taking out underground oil tanks in 16 and didn't happen in 17, that's going to affect permits. If there was changes in occupancy use that they required either a sprinkling system or an alarm system, it may have happened more in 16 than 17.
So was that a percentage down? Or
44% down.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chief.
My pleasure.
Very enlightening, always educational. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to Section 3, Citizen Comment Period. Citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. To ensure comments are recorded properly, please state your name clearly into the microphone. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. To ensure all citizens have sufficient time to speak, comments regarding candidates or ballot measures are not allowed under state law. Individuals participating in public comment are asked to refrain from speaking on these topics during the comment period. So we have, it looks like, one who has signed up here, Brad Gluth. Brad?
Hi, my name is Brad Gluth. I'm a citizen and a property owner. I'll be short tonight. I'm here to ask the City Council to consider directing staff to prepare a shopping cart ordinance. Shopping carts in our community appear to have escaped the corrals or running wild. In most cases, taking a shopping cart is theft. They're left in traffic lanes, they're on sidewalks, they're in bushes, they're in parks, and one morning I found one in my driveway behind my car. I've been taking them back. I've been collecting them from roadside ditches. I've collected them from parks. I know a few other people that occasionally take them back. I know a few business owners that regularly take them back. I spoke with store manager of one of our local grocery stores. He told me that they recently ordered 90 of the smaller carts at a cost of between $700 and $800 each. That's per cart. The larger carts are $1,200 each. So that's over $63,000 in carts they had to replace that have just disappeared. That, I assume, gets passed on to our grocery bills. Besides the cost to us and to the stores, it reduces the aesthetic appeal of our community. It looks trashy. So what I've done is I've printed out 5 shopping cart ordinances from cities in Washington State: Yakima, Auburn, Kelso, Bellevue, and Renton. And what most of these shopping cart regulations do is they put a responsibility on the store to go retrieve their carts. If they don't, they can be impounded, there can be fines, and then the carts can be disposed of. There's also some improvements on charging with theft. There's some more enforcement teeth for the people who you see there walking down the street with the shopping carts that clearly don't own them. So just that's all I came to talk about. So my request is that you ask staff to review these and consider proposing a shopping cart ordinance for our city.
Thank you very much, Brad. Could you give those to our clerk here? We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Councilor Omberg? Yeah.
You know, I appreciate Mr. Gluth's comments about the shopping carts, because I also pick them up at the bus stop. Usually people use them to get to the bus, and then they leave them in the ditch or wherever. I also experienced a shopping center in Canada where the merchants, the grocery store, basically in this case, they had these coin link chain systems to the carts. And so when you deposit your coin, it releases the cart, and when you return it, you get your coins back. And I think it was like 50 cents, 2 quarters. And it seems to me that in addition to maybe the ordinance, we might even want to consider having the merchants institute the coin system, because we have a number of people on the street with signs needing money, and money is often a motivator.
Yeah, true.
So maybe we should consider that one also if we write an ordinance for this.
When I looked into it, there's quite a few systems that have been implemented to keep them on the premises. So that's just one of many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else for a citizen comment? Going once, going twice, okay. Thank you. We will move on to our consent agenda, item number 4 on the agenda. Looks like we have actually A through L. Got quite a few consent agenda items, and if I don't see any objection, they will be adopted as presented. Any? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I believe we have either at least one, if not both, new planning
Oh.
commissioners possibility. Could we introduce them, please?
Well, let's do that. Yes. We have, help me,
Aaron Waters. It's C.
C. Okay. So we have with us tonight Aaron Waters. Aaron, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining and Alan McFeeters. Alan, thank you for coming tonight. I always appreciate, believe me, the work of the Planning Commission. It is something the council, as a council person, I relied heavily on. The city relies heavy on that, and so we thank you very much for joining our commission. Thank you. Okay, so those consent agenda items will be adopted as presented. And so we will move on to section number 5. This is mayor, council, and staff comments. I actually have a few comments. I want to thank you for, I was able to travel to the Pentagon this last week, along with Mayor Pro Tem. We traveled back there and met on the 15th of March with several military officials in the Pentagon. We spent a morning of meetings and had some very good conversation about NAS Whidbey and their future plans, and I think there's a bright, long future for NAS Whidbey. So we just want to make sure we continue that communication and that relationship. So thank you for letting me get away. The St. Patrick's Day Parade was Saturday, March 17th. I know that we had some of the folks up here involved, and Councilor Wassinger was there, I know, and Rhonda and I got to join in the parade, and it was a great time. So thank you for in fact, I think there was a better turnout than we expected. A lot of people from our community out there, so thanks all for coming and enjoying St. Patrick's Day. Also wanted to announce that the National Council for Home Safety and Security has announced Washington's safest cities for 2018. And again, Oak Harbor is in the top 10 safest cities in the state of Washington, and I'm very proud of that. It's a combination of things that they look at for safe cities, and it's nice to feel the safety that Oak Harbor provides. So, congratulations to all and to those who help make our city a safe city. Thank you. NAS Whidbey Island earned the Navy Installation Excellent Award for the second time in 2018, just like they did in 2017. NAS Whidbey Island recently earned distinguished recognition. Its 2018 Commander-in-Chief's Installation Excellence Award for large naval installations. The Navy's Installation Excellent Award program recognizes the top 3 large and top 3 small installations based upon performance within the command's strategic goals and also fitting the criteria established by the Office of the Secretary of Defense in regard to the award. And I think most of you know I do meet with the commanding officer on a monthly basis. He was in my office today for an hour. He's actually on kind of a downhill in his tour of duty. He's on the downhill side of that. His replacement has been announced, and he'll be coming sometime this summer, probably late this summer. So Captain Moore's been here doing an excellent job, obviously, as he mentioned that he got to come into the base that had received an award. He gave some of that credit to the previous commanding officer, Mike Nortier, who is still in our community, and of course now he's been able to be a part of the award, pretty much full responsibility for this. Well, he gives the credit to his people, which is right. He's got a great group of people out there. So, yay, NAS Whidbey, keep it up, and we appreciate you. So that's all I have, and I think that we will go to council members at this time. Anybody? Yes, Councilor Wiesner.
I had a distinct privilege last week to go out and visit one of our local businesses. It's actually been growing pretty quietly here for the last 45 years. And I got to tell you, living my entire life here, I was really surprised to learn about this company, TSI, out on Goldie Road. I had noticed a permit come in for a new facility for them. It's a fairly large facility, so I wanted to go out and learn a little bit about these folks. And what an eye-opener. They are probably the city's largest private employer with 200 employees. So certainly not the top, they're in the top 2 or 3. And they're living wage jobs that are being paid out there. Not only do they pay a good wage, but they're profit sharing 20% of their profits with their employees. And so it was really exciting to see the facility, not realizing quite what they did. And the reality is, they build circuit boards. If you fly on any airplane in the world that has USB ports in the seat, the circuit board that are running those was built here in Oak Harbor. And I didn't realize that. And the first 500,000 Sonicare toothbrushes, I guess, were built here. And so I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to, businesses like this, because I think, we've always talked about, attracting, businesses that have good paying jobs. A perfect example of one that we've got here, there's very little byproduct from this operation. They create no waste. They recycle all of their water. So it seems like a good green business, and I'm excited to see that they're expanding. What I'm really excited to see is they chose to stay here and expand, because we were up against some ports that had talked with them, had provided them some clear incentives to move, and they decided to stay here. And this has been their home for 45 years. And so I really appreciate the COO and the director of out there for showing me around, and it was just amazing. And I would say to any of the council members, if you haven't been there, it'd be a real eye-opener for you. They have some machines out there that can compete with offshore manufacturing, and just goes to show that we can support these type of businesses in our town. So just want to let everybody know.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we don't normally necessarily respond to citizen comment, but Mr. Gluth, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'm happy to make that official because it's something I've gotten a lot of feedback on as well. Just they're parked on sidewalks, they're everywhere. Our fire department, I know I've seen you guys out with trucks actually returning them. Question for our city attorney: if I was to move to make a motion to have staff research an ordinance is 60 days, I know you haven't seen those sample. 60 days enough, you think?
That should be plenty of time.
Okay. So I would like to move to instruct staff to research and prepare a possible shopping cart ordinance within the next 60 days.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to research and prepare a shopping cart ordinance in the next 60 days. Motion by Councilor Servadius, second by Councilor Holmberg. Any question or all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, nice job. We're still on council comment. Anybody else? I did want to say in follow-up to Councilor Wiesner's, I met with the TSI people yesterday. They were in City Hall. They do have a great plan moving forward, and they have invited the rest of council. Probably shouldn't have 4 at a time out there, but if they would love to have you come out, they love to talk to you about their business and their plan. So hopefully you can all find the time. Yeah, we'll help you set that up if you'd like. Okay. Anyone else? Council. Okay. City administrator comments this time.
Yeah, I have just one thing. I wanted to let council know that we've been looking at website design and development, and we came up with a winner, AHA Muni Code. We went through a multitude. There were 6 that floated to the top. 3 of them actually demonstrated for 8 of us, 7 staff and 1 council member. And as a group, we all unanimously agreed to the AHA Unicode. The cost of that to get the design and the build done is $26,500. So it won't be coming to council for approval. It's at the level that the mayor can approve. But it will be a new look to our website. It will hopefully accomplish some of the things that we've been wanting to. Dina Emery is leading this up. And so if you have any questions or things that you would like her to be aware of, please let her know. And we're hoping that we can get this going as soon as possible. And then, go ahead.
That's all.
And then the only other thing is I have Brett, who is going to give the clean water facility update.
Good evening. It's time for our project update for the clean water facility. Our project is you're starting to see the structural work come to fruition. We got roofs up and walls up. Big part of our project is inside doing mechanical electrical systems. So we're starting to install all kinds of equipment and hooking it up to the electrical system. This is guys pulling one set of wires for one conduit, and we have hundreds of them. So it's actually a pretty extensive process. We do have PSC coming out on the 2nd to energize the system. So we're getting ready to move forward with that. Recent activities, Windjammer Phase 1 improvements. We did open some bids. We still have some packages remaining, and we're beginning the process of assembling a GMP draft for a council workshop. We are continuing work on our SCADA software development, including factory acceptance testing, and we are finalizing the development permits for the park project. Construction-wise, most of our major structural concrete is now placed, over 12,000 yards. You won't ever see us not pouring concrete because there's a lot of small pads and that type of thing that'll be occurring. But this is actually a pretty big milestone for our crew. We are continuing to backfill around structures. That pile is starting to slowly disappear. Like I said earlier, the majority of our work is on GMP number 9 and number 11. Number 9 is mechanical electrical systems, and 11 is mostly architectural parts. Actually, I thought our workers would be tapering down, but we're back up to 115, and it's going to stay that way for the rest of this month. So it's still a very busy place. Our self-performed wood framing is coming to its final stages. That's getting done, and it's been very successful for us. And we're still working extensively on masonry work and roofing. The only building we have left to roof is the administration building. We've discussed previously at a previous workshop to start giving you more information to increase our transparency. We have prepared for your packet this month a monthly report that will be coming out in the second meeting of the month from now on. This is our first report, so we'd appreciate any comments you have on it and anything you'd like to see changed or anything more information available. It is quite extensive, and we're available to meet with council members individually or in a work session. So if you want to go over any items that you want clarification on, we can certainly help you with that. So we are available for that. We are budget-wise, our total construction budget right now is at $147.25. The exceptions we're talking about are in the report. Actual through the end of February 2/28, we've spent $95,394,000. We have about $45 million remaining in contract, and think about that. Most of that's going to be spent in the next 6 or 8 months. Very good progress. We have some major upcoming decision points. We are talking about scheduling a workshop to discuss GMP number 13, Windjammer Park. The bids and results are coming due on that, so we need to have a conversation with that, as we talked about on March 5th. And later this evening, we'll talk about an amendment to our PSE service contract left over from last session. Schedule-wise, this is the same old schedule. We're staying on it. Things are moving ahead. We're starting to go off the end, which is good news. Major highlights for the next 6 months is in April, we hope to finish all major structural construction, walls, roofs, bricking, all that kind of thing. And that's pretty much on track. We will start mechanical testing of we call our liquids process. That's a complete mechanical. We do start the process up with clean water, test it with clean water before we put sewage to it. That'll be, hopefully put sewage to it in early September. Concurrently, our solids process, which is on less of a critical path because we can't do too much to it, can't test it until we have the other system working. That'll be coming to completion in August. Right now, we're hoping to have the plant up and operational in November of 2018, barring any problems. In the period from May to December, we are looking at site improvements and the Windjammer Park improvements to be taking place. So the construction will be switching to outside. Councilman Omberg talked about our administrative closeout schedule. We've started actually to start to pencil this out. It's going to be filled in with tasks as we move along, but I'll talk a little bit about the process because it does take a while. Like I say, we're not going to have our startup done until about the late fall, November this time. Windjammer Park will be going on through December, and we're anticipating some cleanup activities in the final plan. There's certain things we can't do till the spring, but we plan on having the park back in the spring. Our first major milestone is our Department of Ecology SRF loans have to close out by December 31st. So that not only involves expending all the money, but also involves, we have a whole bunch of administrative closeout details to do with that, a lot of reports and that type of thing. So we'll be working on that this fall. Major item, which I call punch list, is when we start these things up, there's always a lot of things that work or not work or need to be fixed. And so punch lists on these type of projects typically take 6 to 8 months. That's after we get them started up. So we may have a pump that needs a new bearing or something like that. So that's pretty routine for this type of project. And right now we're anticipating 6 to 8 months of that. Regulatory approval, we do have to get DOE approval on this facility, both from the liquid side and the solid side. So there's a fair amount of operational things that we have to do to get this facility. We'll be up and running, but we also have to demonstrate that it's meeting the design intent, and Corolla has to certify that, but also DOE has to accept that. And we do that both from the liquids point of view and from the solids point of view. And there's also, as part of our treatment plant, we have to have a solids management plan where we deal with our Class A and marketing, so we have to go through several approvals on that. So there'll be a fair amount of work on that. It's not labor intensive, but it just takes time. Subcontractor closeout, right now Kaufman has 26 major subs on the project, and they all have subs to subs. So closing those out will take probably about a year. We're starting some of them now, but we have to clear taxes, a lot of administrative stuff before you do that. So we're anticipating that to take a year to 18 months. And we really can't get Kaufman closed out till we get most of that underway. And the final acceptance period is in that period where we do a lot of finalizing. So realistically, I'm talking 18 months to 24 months, and that's being optimistic in terms of these type of project closeouts. But we will be starting to fill this schedule in, and I'll probably start adding more lines to operational side, because what's happening is our consultants and contractors' efforts will start peaking out this summer, and they'll start to decline through the end of the year. But our operation and the city operations will start picking up a lot more. So there's a lot more things that we'll be doing to not only make the plant work, but get the regulatory approvals and new processes that we have to run. Anyway, if you want to find out more about our project, you can reach us at oakharborcleanwater.org. You can call us at 914-7000. That's our project number, or you can reach us at our business, our work extensions. You can email us at treatmentplant@oakharbor.org. And our next community drop-in is April 9th, and we are taking tours by appointment. Questions?
Okay. Thank you, Brett. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. For the regulatory, do you send them reports now saying exactly how far we are?
Yes.
So that when you need them to come, we're not delayed several months because of that? They can kind of be right there when we need it so that we're not held up?
Yeah, they get, well, we bill them monthly for our construction costs, and they get a monthly report with that. Actually, they get, we do weekly construction meeting notes, and they have those. And generally, they come out to visit us on quarterly. Our relationship with them has been excellent. And remember, the people that are managing the construction are also from the regulatory side. So they're very much aware, and I actually went over this schedule with them about a month ago. They came out for a visit, and we kind of talked about getting it started, because we're also in the process of finalizing our MBDS permit for the facility. And so part of the startup we've got things going on with the startup that affect the permit. So we had a very detailed discussion about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Councilor Wassinger.
Are the costs associated with this closeout work included in our 140 estimated
Right now, they
cost?
are, yeah, unless there's some change. The Corolla costs and the KBA costs are there. I'm a little worried about KBA's contract because they've done pretty well, but we've never done an amendment with them, so I've got to work with them on the final prices. But Corolla's got some time built in for that because they have to do certifications and startup training and that type of thing. So,
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Olmberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Brett, we went over a bunch of these questions. I'm going to ask you a few of them right now, mostly for the benefit of our viewing audience and for the council members. In this report, which I want to really compliment you and the staff on, this is the best report that we've had, that we've received. It's very comprehensive. It shows for me, it shows the project both in money and a narrative that makes it a lot easier to understand where we are and where we are going. So thank you to you, to your entire engineering staff, Patricia, the formatting of the cost forecasting and the revenue projections. But quickly, there's a couple of comments within this report that I think other people might find interesting. First of all, what jumped out at me is the comment about the remainder of the biosolids dryer equipment. Often, one will find that a $10 item will hold up a $100,000 item that holds up a project for, it could be $1 million item. So in my understanding of our conversation today, you have all of the biosolid delivery schedules totally under control. They will be here in March, as I understand.
yes.
Okay.
2/3 of them are already here, and the other ones are on the boat. One thing we don't have in hand right now is our control panels. But they're scheduled to be out here. We're just dealing with some issues with that right now.
So you won't let them be the pennies that are holding up the dollars?
No, and they do. No, that GMP does have damages if they hold up the project.
Okay.
So they do have some liabilities if we start seeing problems, and they have been notified of such.
And also on the closeout. There's a long closeout period for all of the details. Of course, the plant will be operating near the end of 2018. But during the closeout for all contracts, by the time they get cleared with Labor and Industries, all of the bonding, all of the agencies involved, they do not receive their full retention. Is that correct?
Nope, we do not really. If you remember, about 2 months ago, we did some partial releases. They have to go through the process with the state. There's 3 agencies they have to deal with, clear their taxes, clear any labor claims, and we have to send out notices on that. So it's a very extensive process. Those 3 that we cleared out took 4 months.
And much of the effort to prosecute that is really the responsibility of Hoffman.
Yes, it is.
Check, okay. Then we also, on GMP 7, we used 2 million gallons of water to do the tank testing. And my question to you this morning was, and for the benefit of the staff here, or the council, is much of that water cannot be reused for pipe testing, pressure testing, et cetera. Some of it can, but most of it goes back down the drain. Is that correct?
Yes, what we did was these tanks are 1 million gallons apiece, so we fill one up, and we fill it up, then we check it for leaks. So concrete, if you're familiar with what happened in Florida, concrete cracks for a variety of reasons. We check it, make sure they're not leaking. If we have a leak, then we do a sealant, we call it crack injection. Once we get the cracks where we feel we're comfortable with it, then we check it again, make sure it fills it to the top, and we let it stand for a week and check how far the water goes down. So that has to pass a leakage test for us. Then we change the water and put it into another tank. And once we've kind of checked the tanks out, we can't let the water sit for 3 months because it'll turn pretty green. Plus, we have to get back inside the tanks to install all the air system and mechanical system inside the aeration basins. So we do discharge it at that point.
Okay, thank you. And then in our risk contingencies, 3.5% by Hoffman, which is, Hoffman does not get to spend that risk contingency without the approval of KBA and the city. Okay, and also the city has a 2% risk contingency, but in this document, it says, and I don't like the way it's explained, it says that 2% is essentially to include significant design errors and omissions. That jumped out at me like we are covering design errors and omissions from our architect and engineer.
No.
That is not, that's really a misstatement?
That is a misstatement, and we will reword that. I like to have anybody give us, something straight. That is for design changes, and we change designs for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's something we request. Oftentimes, most of our design changes resulted from the fact that we were building stuff 2 years ago that we hadn't designed here, so sometimes we have to come back and fix something later.
Well, some of it was from the value engineering.
From the value engineering.
Like odor control, et cetera.
Yeah, so like, for example, the odor control, we started with the headworks construction, late last year. We didn't have the odor control till much later, and we had to do some fan changes and some duct changes, and we dealt with those as owner contingency.
It's my understanding that during that value engineering, we actually saved
We saved a lot of
some money
yeah.
on the back end of that redesign. So were there any errors and omissions?
There's one that I am concerned about, and I'm talking to Kroll about, but I don't consider it a major error, but there's one we've had a little issue with, yeah. But in the scheme of things, it's been very.
Thank you for the revelation. I'll be
yeah.
asking you that question.
Yeah, I know. And it's listed in there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. And then this is for, we've got people on this council who understand accounting. And one of the things that jumped out on me is on the format that you have for our GMPs shows the original contract, because there's two lists in here that I think need to be explained.
Yeah.
It shows the original GMP, shows the final GMP. When I looked at this, I'm going, how can we possibly do 12 GMPs and they come out, the end cost comes out exactly the same as the front end cost? And would you explain that for us, please?
That's what we call our cost change memorandum. So, that's why I've offered the opportunity to sit down and go through this, because it's, like I say, it is kind of interesting in accounting. When we do a GMP, we have what we call cost of work. Then we add contingencies and taxes on the bottom of that, and NSS. And how we handle that contingency, we look at cost of work. So what that was insinuating in the GMP was the cost of work doesn't change, but that's being adjusted by the contingency cost. So we may take money out of the GMP, or we may put money into it, depending on how we handle the contingency. We have several contingencies there where we've actually lowered the price. So when we get done at the end, yeah, it always adds up, but it's also inherent in that process.
And that, Patricia, came out, in this report, how that money is moved. It's my initial take on this is it's not possible to do that after going through the explanation and comparing the two reports. It's not a shell game of just moving money around under a shell to make things balance. It appears to me to be pretty solid accounting to report how the money is being spent. yeah, through the contingencies and the tax that's affiliated with that.
That's where the report, we have a report on the CCMs that details that transfers.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, other comments, other input? Okay, thank you, Brett. That was the Clean Water Facility update. We'll move on to Section 6. We have a resolution 18-06 adopting the 2018 Comprehensive Plan Amendments Docket. And I see our Senior Planner, Kak Kamak, coming forward. Kak?
Good evening, Kak Kamak, Senior Planner. Here to present the 2018 Comprehensive Plan Amendment Docket. I have a short presentation. I'm here every year at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year to do these amendments, primarily because the RCW says you can only amend your comprehensive plan once a year. And it's a long-range plan, and that's what it's meant to, changes are not meant to be frequent on that document. So we have a process that we begin in the October of every month, collecting applications, and then we go through a docket review process. It goes through Planning Commission, and then it comes to City Council. We do some workshops, we chat with you about it. So this is kind of the final step in adopting the actual docket. So the items that we have tracking for the 2018 docket are the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan. This is a carryover item from 2017. Plans usually take about 1.5 to 2 years to update. As the council can remember, we had a joint workshop with the Planning Commission and the Park Board to discuss the goals and policies. We'll soon be coming forward to all the bodies, Park Board, Planning Commission, and the City Council, to talk about what we're going to, what we would like to accomplish in the next 6 years, the 6-year plan. So we'll be coming forward in the next 2-3 months on that. Economic development element, this is an element that we kept open in 2017 and continue to keep open. We've added a policy in 2017 to make a link between our economic development element and the capital improvements plan, because we had a couple of projects that were more economical development related, driven with grant money, so we made that link a little stronger. But we'll keep that open just to consider any other policies or changes that can likely come out in 2018. We have the JPA UJ resizing. Originally, we thought about whether we need to have this on a docket, because primarily the county took it off their docket. And these are lines that we negotiate with the county, and we chat with them about that, and we coordinate that effort with them. But there's still some talk about going on about that, so we thought, well, it's best to keep it open. We'll keep chatting about it, just in case we need to do any changes this year, we can. If not, we can continue to the next year, and maybe the county will have different ideas on whether they want to entertain that at the next year, so we'll keep that open. Housing element, this has been a topic of discussion at many boards and commissions over the last few months, and I think it's good to approach this comprehensively. The county is updating their housing element. They're 2-3 months ahead of us, which is okay, because they are the larger area, and housing has no boundaries really. The issues don't have any boundaries. Whatever strategies that we want to adopt here for the city should kind of work in sync with what the county has and shouldn't contradict each other. Otherwise, these issues will actually compound. So if we can help, the jurisdictions can help each other out, we can actually bring some solutions. So we'll open that in 2016 and start a discussion about that. And of course, annually we update our capital improvements plan, and this is where our projects and schedules get updated. So we'll be doing that again this year. So these are the items tracking to 2018. And I have in the packet the criteria that justifies all these amendments moving forward. So we recommend that the council consider that and adopt the resolution. In terms of timeline, this is something that the council is familiar with. We go through the docket process at the beginning of the year. The Planning Commission held a hearing on it at their February meeting, and they recommended approval. of the docket. We chatted with the city council at the workshop on February 28th. So currently, you're holding a hearing. I recommend holding a hearing, getting public comments, closing it, and then taking an action. And then during the summer months, we work on this. We usually have this item on every planning commission meeting, and we'll come frequently to the workshop with city council to update you on what's going on with these amendments. And then when we get to the end of the year, we'll have hearings to adopt the actual amendments. So that's just the timeline. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, let's see if there's any from the public to begin with here. Any kind of input, and then we'll come back to the council. Anybody got any questions or input at this point? Okay, seeing none, let's ask Senior Planner CAC and Councilor Wiesner.
CAC, I'm actually very pleased, number one, to see the economic development issue at the planning level. You know, I think without having a plan for economic development, we just don't know where we're going to go. So I think that's a very important part. Now, when it comes to the housing element, I have a concern as to whether or not the hands are being a little bit tied on the Planning Commission. Are they going to be able to discuss a housing element without discussing JPA, UGA? I mean, it seems to me as though if the county has closed that issue for discussion to anybody, I mean, they don't have it on their comp plan docket, it means they're not going to be able to discuss it with us. And I feel as though that's kind of an integral part of the housing element. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think our plans are, my hope is that we will have a working group that will form for the housing element, that hopefully will have members of the commission and planning commission to discuss housing issues generally. I know the affordability task force that was formed came up with some issues for both the city and the county to discuss. But when we work with a comprehensive housing element, we have to look at data from a 30,000-foot level and see what impacts it can have generally on the city, what tools we have in order to make things happen. And because the county is doing their housing element, and they're also got surveys out, and they're also doing goals and policies, we'll find where we can interface and where the issues are. And that will tell us whether housing should be accommodated by expanding UGA or not. I mean, so we'll go from the bigger level, come down to the smaller level to see if that is the way to solve or address the issues that we have. So we're not drawing a direct link to say that the only way we're going to solve the housing issue is by expanding the UGA. I don't know that for sure. None of us do. We think it is. But working with the county, we'll see if that's where we go. If that is a obvious solution, then that could be folded into a discussion with the county, and that can come out of the housing element discussion that we're having with them. So that's the way I think we'll make those connections.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so your suggestion is to conduct a public hearing. So I guess that we'll do that
We've done
first,
that.
right?
And I have a recommended action, so
Okay, so is there any last input regarding anything from the public? Anything at this time? If not, bring it back to the council. And what would you like to do? Councilor Wassinger?
I move to approve Resolution 1806, adopting the 2018 Comprehensive Plan Amendments Docket.
Second.
So we got a motion in a couple of seconds to approve the Resolution 1806, adopting 2018 Comprehensive Plan Amendments Docket. A motion by Councilor Wassinger. I'll give the second to Mayor Pro Tem. Any other input or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you, CAC. So we will move on. That was the only item under 6. And we are now going to item number 8B. Commercial electric facilities contract, Puget Sound Energy Commercial Line Extension Agreement Amendment, Clean Water Facility. And we have Brett back with us, so go ahead, 8B.
Okay, this is a continuation from the item we had at the March 6th meeting. This is our industrial service contract amendment with PSC. Talking more about the background, our clean water facility is increasing the high voltage electrical loads substantially. And unfortunately, PSC is our only service provider, and their rates are based on their rate structure. On March 7th, 2017, we did approve the initial contract in the amount of $337,444.40. That contract provided both the electric service into the treatment plant, which include the wires, metering, and transformers, but also included upgrading the PSC system because their existing system was under capacity. So we had to pay to upgrade that, which was involved building a new line down City Beach. That was the least cost alternative, but it did require us obtaining a public utility easement, which we thought we had at the time, which kind of fell through. So we were looking at alternatives at them. Oops, sorry, wrong button. I want to talk a little bit about PSC's industrial services contracts. PSC charges are based on what they call Schedule 84. That's in their rate tariff structure. That's set by the regulatory commissions, so it's same for everybody everywhere. They do charge based on a time and materials basis, and again, the prices are established in rate 85, and they're usually a unit price issue, so they charge you so much for a certain diameter of wire or so much per manhole pole or that type of thing. They do a cost structure for that. The question that came up at the last meeting was regarding the language on permanent and temporary services. The contract language contains language regarding permanent and temporary services, and they charge you a nominal charge for that. It's usually by wire. These are standard PSC charges for connections, all service connections, and like I say, they charge you, first wire is $560, and it's $122 per wire there, which is kind of a deal for us because we're doing 16 wires and they're about this big. But that's just a standard tap. And the reason they keep it separate from the estimate is people can come back and tap later, so that's the standard charge for that. So they keep the capacity construction costs separate from the tapping charge. Again, it's in our situation, it's about $2,500. This, like I say, this allows for this is one size fits all, so you get into a lot of small, like industrial parks. They'll run the service in, do the initial service, and somebody else will come hook up to it. So that's how they handle that. And again, it's by the regulatory standards. And also, there's certain times when you want to come out and turn stuff off. We call it hot sticking. And so if they have to come out and turn your power off for us to check switch gear or something like that, they charge you like $300 to come out, $360. Why we want to do the contract changes, as I said, we could not get an easement. Our alternatives came back at trying to underground down part of City Beach, and that was about a $300,000 charge for us. But in evaluating alternatives, PSC suggested an alternate route coming down Pioneer because we had already had conduits there, and that raised our cost to $119,171.15. Which was compared to the $300,000 a very good price. During your February 28th workshop, there was a preliminary number put out of $75,000. That was, again, a preliminary number. As we worked through it with PSC, there was a couple of things that came out. One, that assumed they could work during the day and whenever they wanted. Problem is, a lot of this work was going to take place on Pioneer, so I asked them to price it with off-hours work so we could avoid impacts to the businesses down there. They added cost to that, and the numbers I saw originally did not have a contingency amount. So the 456 quoted in the project does have a 15% contingency amount per item. The question was regarding underground services along City Beach. You think there's 3 poles in a small distance wouldn't cost that much, but turns out to be a very complicated issue for us. We assumed overhead service just because there was a lot of issues getting down through there, mostly due to small right-of-way issues and easement issues. We talked to them about undergrounding that small section from Pioneer back to the treatment plant. And there's 2 costs involved with that. One is you have to trench and do the excavation and provide that, and they give you the conduit, then you install it. Our cost to do, we did a Schedule 74, and our cost to do from Pioneer or from Bayshore up to the old treatment plant was $220,000. That was in Site Prep B. That did not, then we had paid PSC on top of that. So $220,000 would be low for this because we have a lot more traffic issues there, a lot tighter area. And the problem is there's services going every which way, so we'd have to go across the road. So it became a lot more extensive for a small section. PSC gave me a order of magnitude estimate on their cost alone of $200,000 to $300,000. So we were talking $500,000 to underground those 3 poles, and we felt the project couldn't support that. It also required several easements, both from Wells Fargo and the property across the street. This is the 2 routes that we're talking about. The red route is the original route, and the green route is the new route coming down there. Again, that's an underground route, so that's an advantage. We will upgrade some of the overhead on Ireland a little bit, but that's already there. This is where we, as part of the contract, this has actually been built and being energized in the second, is this section line coming into the plant. Anyway, our recommendation is to authorize the mayor to sign our amended industrial service contract with PSC, increasing the contract amount by $119,171.15 to $456,615.55 plus any appropriate service charges. Questions?
So let's make sure the public doesn't have any questions. Anybody here? Got any questions? Okay. Council? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Understand the plan, $500,000 doesn't fit into it, but on Pioneer Way, I felt like the city did an excellent job trying to keep all the businesses informed when it's going to impact. So do we have a plan in place that those businesses will be notified if there is a part daytime or nighttime? I mean, they may have something planned at night, and if they knew about the schedule earlier, they could rearrange however. But anyway, how long it's going to take and when it begins. So is there a plan to?
Yes,
let
there
them
is.
know?
I discussed that with PSC. That's their standard operating procedure. Plus, we'll do our part to get out and do it to our public involvement. So we're definitely going to let them know what's going on. And like I say, our intent is to minimize the impacts to them.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Wiedzer?
Brett, under the brief description of other costs, it shows several items. I'm assuming that that is just a breakdown of the $348,000 construction cost?
On this slide, or?
No, on the actual contract with PSC, you had a brief description of their costs. It lists primary underground line, Ireland Street rebuild work.
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned a 15% contingency. You know, I'm used to having contingencies, meaning that if they're not spent, they come back to us.
It is time materials.
Where does it, I mean, I don't see anything outlined in this contract indicating that there's a 15% contingency and that it comes back to us if it's not spent.
Well, the contract is time materials not to exceed. The contingency is built into their estimates. Unfortunately, we do not get detail in the estimates, and I've tried several times, and Mr. Omberg was in with our PSC representative today and asked the same question.
Is that the engineering staff, or? You know, I mean, I've done quite a bit of work with PSC over the years, and I don't know that I've ever gotten a refund from them on any bill that I've signed with them ever.
No.
So I'm kind of concerned that, we signed a contract for $456,000. That's what the bill's gonna be. I mean,
It could be that we'd actually on our schedule 74 that we did earlier, we came in $10,000 less.
okay.
So it's, I could say it's, the rates they charge us are the rates, and that's all covered by the schedule. So unfortunately, I can't go down to, electric company B and ask
Sure.
for a price.
I'm just concerned, I mean, nowhere on here does it say not to exceed. So I'm just concerned how it's construed as a not to exceed.
That's our discussion with them, so.
Okay. And you met with them today, Mr. Umber? And this is what they shared with you? Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilor Servadius. Councilor Servadius.
I know Mr. Albert's question will probably be very thorough. Can you jump a slide, I think, to the recommended action, please, Brett? Following up on what Councilmember Wiesner was just saying, that last line is not in our recommended action, so tell me again, plus any service charges?
That came out of today where that was different than the agenda bill, because we did some clarification on that charge with the PSC representative today, so I did change that because while I think we're probably going to be under the 465, I do need to say that's a separate cost from the 456.
Okay, I'll wait to hear from my peers. Thank you.
Councilor Alber.
Thank you, Mayor. Part of my questions when we met last time
Yeah.
had to do with the permanent and temporary service charges that were set up as line items for base costs that were not included in the projected cost breakdown that we had for $337,444,000. And in the conversation with PSC, he went into detail about how they use that temporary service charge in there. And my concern was approximately how much is that going to be? Having worked with PSC and understanding a little bit about their tariff regulations and how they present this, these are items down here that they're not the unknowns, but they work off of basically a T&M schedule,
Right.
time and material schedule. And this is part of the fine tuning of things that happen that cannot be predicted. And I know that happens. And they came to the representation along with our discussion within our group, our engineering staff, that represents possibly about $2,500. It's not a big ticket item, and it's not going to go away. He also explained that the 15% contingency, which I like to often see line items has 15% contingencies, they're actually, the contingency is built into their rate as they go through their line items, their unit cost for labor, unit cost for materials, overhead, based on their tariff schedule. And that is fairly consistent with my experience with them in the past. But the other part that is not discussed in here, that came up in the course of this meeting is, and now I don't know this for a fact, if you worked out a revenue ratio with our plant, because often the customer pays for the front end and they get some of it, I'm not going to say forgiven, but a credit discount because it's based on the amount of energy, electricity that we use in a project. And the way the PSC representative explained to us today, and correct me if I misstate this, that after about 2 months of operation, if our use of power is greater than the estimated use of power, because they take all of the types of equipment that we have in this, they calculate what we can expect in terms of power consumption for a month or for a billing period over a period of time. In other words, they have all the equipment. Here comes Joe, he's going to help us out. Now, after approximately 60 days, they do this analysis, and it's a true-up to say, is this accurate on the credit that we get back? We could get back up to $75,000 if we are actually using more electrical energy than what was estimated by them based on our equipment list in this plant. And
That's correct, except it's 2 years.
at 2 years,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just moving the
Yeah, and-
schedule up a little bit.
And that, we didn't put it into the agenda bill or the contract because we can't guarantee it. So at this point, we put it on the list. In 2 years, we have to apply for that directly, and it's actually discussed in the actual contract itself. So we are, I think the better word for it is a rebate, and it's more has to do with,
Yeah.
and so it has more to do with that. So as we get our system up and running and the horsepower lines up, because we give these, they go with a lot of assumptions, and so they'll sell back some, buy back some of the capacity that we're buying here today. So it's not something at this point I'm guaranteeing, but it's something we definitely want to pursue in 2 years.
Right. And I'm convinced that the staff is on top of this. It just happened to focus on this the way it was presented last time. And I personally wasn't satisfied with the answers, but I appreciate the answers that you provided. And also on an item that answers some of the Mayor Pro Tem's questions about interruption on Pioneer Way. Included in this estimate, they've allowed for overtime to work at night or weekends, which is overtime work. So it minimizes the disruption to our residents and businesses in the area that's going to be disrupted, because there's going to be some street work in some areas. And where they can work during the day, during non-peak traffic hours or in high traffic lanes, they will work during the day to minimize the overtime. So, I think the staff has this under control. I'm satisfied. Thank you, Brett.
Other questions, input? Okay. How would the council like to proceed? Councilor Wiesner.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the amended industrial service agreement with PSE, increasing the contract amount $119,171.15 to $456,615.55, plus any service charges.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second as recommended up there. Motion by Councilor Wiesner, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Brett. We are off now to our next to the last item tonight, which is item number 8C, Pavement Rating Project, Professional Services Agreement, Amendment Number 1 with Pavement Services, Inc. We have our city engineer, Joe Stoll.
It's so natural for me to look up to the screen for my PowerPoint, but this one I think was simple enough that I just talked to it. So thank you, Mayor, council members, for having me here tonight. If you remember, back a little while ago, in November, we asked Pavement Services Incorporated to do two primary things for us. One was to set up a pavement management system, and the other was to establish standard street sections based on doing some corings and some collecting data. So they're moving along very nice on the pavement management system right now. They might even be going around the city in the next week or so to do the field data collection of the streets, their condition. What's come up that's interesting is when they were doing the street sections, we provided them with data from our traffic counters, and the intent was to figure out how many cars versus how many semi-trucks so they could develop a cross-section. Turns out we'd recently done an update on our counters, and we also don't necessarily discern between trucks and semi-trucks and cars. So what happened is when they processed the data, it was 4 times the number of semi-trucks on local streets than they would see in a normal city, and so they came back to us and said something's not quite right. What it would have meant is a standard street section of 6 inches of asphalt on 12 inches of base. It just didn't pass the sniff test. So we went back and looked at our data collectors and spoke with the vendor and realized that in fact it had collected the data incorrectly for trucks. So what Pavement Services, Inc. has proposed is to use WashDOT traffic data as well as other similar sized cities to develop a representative sample for us to use for our city. And that has caused, it's additional work above and beyond what they had intended to do. So they've asked for additional funds to do that work in the amount of $3,051. So it's a relatively minor increase, and it's not the full amount of the analysis that they did before. So the action that we're proposing, and I should note that there was a rounding error when putting together the numbers. In the recommended action, it's going from $67,331, increasing by $3,051, and it should be to $70,382 instead of instead of $70,381. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
See if we have anybody from the public that would have a question or wish to speak to this. Okay. Seeing none. Council, yes, Councilor Larson.
So Joe, so basically what this is sounding like this is a process improvement that could potentially affect significant savings in the way we would have had to pave these streets if we went with the old data. Is that what I'm hearing?
Very much so.
Okay.
If we asked the developers to install 6-inch on 12 base around town, we'd probably get chased around with a stick. But it's when we're using the other data, we'll at least have some solid science behind the cross-section that we ask developers to provide, and then we can have a discussion as council and staff as to how we want to implement that.
Okay. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So, we hired people to do these counters, and they didn't set them up right. Do we get money back? I mean, it seems like it's their fault they didn't come up. We have a solution, I mean, right staff, and so we can use DOT and do a combination of that information, but it seems like they kind of owe us since they didn't set it up correctly.
They aren't the ones that collected the data, we were. It was our streets crew and our counters. We do yearly counts on all the major arterials and collectors in town. But our limit of attention has been focused on how many cars, how many trips,
Okay.
not necessarily how many semi-trucks. So it was, we provided them data that was incorrect.
Okay. Thanks.
Councilor Holmberg.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next question that I would ask is, you use the language in our agenda bill. We had a glitch in our software. Has that glitch been resolved? Is that the glitch?
You know, that's always so fun with spreadsheets. If you carry out too many decimal places and then you start rounding up to the nearest dollar, you get rounding errors sometimes, and that's what happened today. And I saw it when I was sitting in there preparing and thought I'd best let you know.
Well, no, I'm talking about the glitch, the language that you used in the agenda bill that says a glitch in the software that resulted in the miscount of the number of trucks. Has that been corrected? That is my question.
We're working with the vendor to correct that now, yes.
Okay.
It's something now that it's been brought to our attention, we're fixing it.
And then on the recommended action, could you please review or restate the correction? Because I'm trying to write it down and I'm...
The easiest way is the very last number, 70,381, should be 382.
82.
The rest of it is spot on.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Other council questions? Motions? Yes, Councilor Bill.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the professional services agreement amendment 1 with Pavement Services, Inc. as presented.
Second.
Okay, got a motion to, as the recommended action reads in your agenda bill. A motion by Larson, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions or input? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes as recommended. Thank you, Joe. And we'll move on to our last item tonight, which is item number 9A, Resolution 18-09, authorization to sell 3 vessels and 1 boat trailer for non-payment of moorage and storage charges. We have our Mr. Sublett from our marina.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Tonight I'm seeking a motion to approve Resolution 1809, authorizing the sale of 3 boats and 1 boat trailer. The owners of these vessels and trailer have not made payment and the accounts are now past due. According to RCW 53.08.320 and Oak Harbor Municipal Code Section 6.36.040, authorization authorizes the city to secure boats for non-payment of charges and trailers as well. Following proper notice to the owner, 90 additional days without payment and subsequent city council action, the marina is authorized to conduct a sale of the vessel to recover its costs. The proper letters and notices were mailed without a response, and the vessels and trailer were secured by marina staff. Both or all of them are presumed to be abandoned at this point. As per Oak Harbor Municipal Code 6.36.040.090, after securing the vessels and the trailer, the city must wait 90 days before taking further action. That 90 days has passed. The next step is to gain City Council authorization for the harbor master to auction the vessels and the trailer. The recommended action is to approve Resolution 1809, authorizing the sale of the 3 vessels and the 1 boat trailer in order to collect unpaid moorage and storage charges. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody from the public? Any questions? Okay. Yes, come forward.
Aaron Waters, what will the prices of those boats be? Will they be market price or just to recover your losses?
Okay, come back and,
Traditionally, we start the prices at what the moorage owed is or what the fees are. So we start there and then we go other way because of the bids.
chance to buy a boat or a boat trailer. Anyone else? Okay, any council? Bring it back. Yes, Councilor Wiesner.
Chris, I noticed a couple of these were more than a couple of years old. What happened?
Yeah, a lot of times what we try to do is we try to bundle them together. We try to time them in an appropriate time to sell them as well. When you try to do it in the winter, you don't get many people turning out for the auction. The way this one's working out, it's working out really great because the Marina Swap Meet is April 21st, so we're going to tie it into that and have the auction then.
And then one more question. How do you feel we're going to come out on these? I mean, are we sitting on some stuff that's not going to get us our mortgage fees back?
There is that possibility, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Councilor Larson.
Mr. Selwood, thank you for getting back with me earlier this week about this. For the council's benefit, I had asked some questions, and you sent me a lot of information about these 4 items. You certainly did do your due diligence. I looked at the history of the collection efforts. And to answer one of your questions, Council Wiesner, there were a number of times in there where people made partial payments and got enough time. And so there was a lot of work done to get to this point where it's unfortunate we have to dispose of these in this manner. You talked about 90 days, but as I looked over the history of these cases, they were far longer than 90
Sure.
days. Also, I do have a history in collections that's part of my dark past I'll let you all know about right now. And so we're not going to get, my feeling is that we're not going to get anywhere near what's owed the city on these. So my last question, or actually my first question for you right now is, after the disposition of these items, after we sell them and that gap, is it customary for the marina to, at that point, discharge that additional debt or that gap between what we get and what is owed? Or do we then process those to a collection agency or send them to a small claims court to try and recoup some of that difference?
We actually send them to a collection agency. The collection agency that we currently use is Armada, and they do a pretty good job for us. So it'll end up there.
Okay. Any other questions? Good question. Any other? Okay. How would the council like to proceed? Yes, Councilor Larson.
I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 1809, authorization to sell 3 vessels and 1 boat trailer for non-payment of moorage and storage charges as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion as recommended action. Motion by Councilor Larson, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any other input or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Passes unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Harbor Master, and have a good vacation. Mhm. Okay, seeing no further business, I accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion and a second.
Second, yeah.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are adjourned.